Welcome, guys, to another episode of Manhood Mondays. I am your host, Clifton Brantley, and tonight we are talking about marriage. All right, talking about marriage tonight. Now, um, I don't know about you, but I've always believed in marriage, which is interesting because I did not grow up with a healthy model of what marriage is supposed to be. Right? I did not grow up seeing people do marriage well, but I remember when I was probably in my 30s, right? I used to have this saying. I used to say that one day I'm going to be the best husband in the history of husbands. I had no idea what I was truly proclaiming, nor did I know how to get there, right? So uh, that was my goal to be. I laugh at it now. To be the best husband in the history of husbands. So fast forward when I get with my when me and my wife first get together, like at the beginning of our relationship, I'm like, bro, like it should not be this hard. You feel me? Like this if we love each other, if we write for each other, then why is it so hard? Well, I found out why it was hard. And so tonight in this episode, I want to give you a few things that I believe will help you be a better husband, which is the first step in you becoming, in you having a better marriage. Now, here's the thing. I started with five things that I was going to give you guys tonight because I want to keep these Manhood Mondays kind of short. But as I was studying today and still like coming up with stuff and remembering my journey, it ended up being a lot more than five. So I'm gonna give you as many as I can in the time we got, and then if I don't get to finish, then we'll do more another time. Is that good with y'all? Great. Okay. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna just jump right in because, like I say, I just you know it's more than five. So here's the first one. Uh, if you're gonna be a better husband and you're gonna learn how to do marriage better, first let me just say this real quick. Why do you want to be a better husband? Because it is my philosophy that the way that you have a great marriage is by becoming a great spouse, not wishing you had one. And because you're the man, because you're the head, because you are the leader, then I call on men to make the change first. Like if you want a better marriage, work on you. Like work on your stuff. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. So here's the first thing. Uh learn who you are. Learn who you are. That's about identity, right? You may think you know who you are, but do you really know who you are? Okay? When you when you know who you are, that will determine how you show up in life. Let me say it a different way. Who you believe that you are, not who you are actually, but if you who you believe you are, that's how you're going to show up in life. See, a lot of us, who we are is not who we're being. You've learned to act like somebody who you're not. And so one of the things, if you're going to be a better husband, you got to settle your identity issues. Now, I've talked about that extensively, so I'm not going to do a deep dive here. But ultimately, you want to work on the things in your personality, not in your personality, but in your character and in your identity that don't line up with who God says you are. Okay. Um, I heard Dr. Myron Golden and Darius Daniels say this: you will only behave in a way that is consistent with who you believe you are, not who you actually are. Right? That's why the Bible says, whatever a man thinks in his heart, then so is he. When you know who you are, fellas, you won't need your wife to believe who you are. I'm going to say that again because I want to make sure I'm clear. When you know who you are, you will not need, keyword need, your wife to believe who you are. Let me give you an example. So if you know that you are, and this is real general, if you know that you are a good person, if you know that you are good enough, that's an identity issue. Let's go with that. If you know that you're good enough, when your wife does or says things that sends you the message that you're not good enough, you can speak to that respectfully, calmly, and respectfully without going off if, in fact, you do know who you are. If you don't know, you're gonna go sideways. Like you're gonna get upset, right? The things we get upset about that our partners say, it's because we don't truly believe that. Because, for example, I don't think I've ever gotten upset for someone thinking that I was a black man. Because I know that I. So if you walked up to me and said, "Hey, you ain't black. I think you're a white guy." I'm gonna laugh at them. It's not gonna bother me at all. I'm not gonna get upset. I'm not gonna get angry. It's not gonna do anything to me. Why? Because I know for sure I'm black. So I don't have any issues with that. But watch this. There was a time, thank God I, worked on this, but there was a time when you could not suggest that I'm weak or anything like that. Why? Because I wasn't sure that I wasn't. And so I would be at the gym, somebody challenge my manhood, right? We gotta get into it. Now, I wasn't a fighter, so I wasn't throwing hands, but verbally, we're gonna like get into some words, right? Why? Because I was insecure. I was not sure that I was man enough, so I needed to defend that. Now, you can say what you want. It ain't gonna bother me. I'm gonna think you have an issue, not me. And that's how it is when you know who you are, right? I know for me as a husband and just as a man, and then it carried over into husbandry. I've spent too much time in my life not knowing who I am. And that has impacted me in a lot of ways. One of the main ways that not knowing who I am has caused me pain in my life is I have consistently chosen women based on my pain instead of my purpose. It's because I didn't know who I was. I thought I did. Like I know my name, but your identity goes deeper than that. See, I learned I learned that I was loved by God, made in his image, and created with a purpose when I was very young. I learned it when I was young, but I did not come to believe it until I was much older. You hear what I'm saying? So you can learn something but not believe it. I learned I had a purpose. I learned that I was created in God. I learned all of that when I was younger, but it took me some time to believe it. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that I didn't believe it. It wasn't until I started doing this work and I realized, oh, wait, that's an identity issue, right? When you know and accept who you are, you won't need your wife or anyone else to believe it for you. Okay? That's the first thing. Here's the second one. If you're going to have a better marriage, if you're going to make marriage not easier, I definitely don't want to make sure I'm not promoting an easier marriage because I don't even know what that is. It's marriage. That's like saying, never mind. So I'm not talking about an easier marriage, but to make marriage better, for you to be a better husband, treat your wife as your equal. That's important, right? Too many fellas don't treat their wives like an equal. Your wife, when God put Adam to sleep and he took Eve out of Adam, he pulled her from the rib, right? And I've taught you before, I've taught previously, I don't know if you've been on here, but I've taught previously that everything that God does is intentional, right? God's not random about anything. So why would he pull Eve out of Adam's rib? Here's what I believe, because we don't have scripture for it, but I believe it's because it's a sign that they're supposed to walk side by side, right? I heard somebody say he didn't take Eve from the man's head so that she would rule over him, and he didn't take her from his feet so that he would trample over her, but took her from his side so she can be by his side and under his wing for protection. That made good sense to me, right? So treat your wife like she's an equal. Don't treat your wife like she's beneath you. I know you're the leader and you got authority or whatever, but use your authority wisely, right? Don't ever make your wife feels like she's not a part of the marriage or that she's less than in the marriage. Like you want your wife to submit, but then you're not the kind of brother that a woman would want to submit to. Why? Because you're not loving her the way someone would need to be loved in order to want to submit. And by the way, for you women listening, submission just means yielding to authority. Everybody on the planet has to do it, right? God just said you do that with your husband. Anyway, so that's the second one. Here's the third one. I'm gonna try to go through these. I'm trying to see how many I can get. The third one, because some of these I'm gonna labor on a little bit longer than others. Okay, if that's all right. So here's the third thing: learn to communicate effectively. Okay, learn how to communicate effectively. You have to be able to express your thoughts and feelings. You got to be able to express yourself. Too many men come into my office and uh, they can't express what's going on inside. They can say, "I don't like this," and they can show anger, but emotions and feelings, they can't really express that. Part of that is communication. Part of that is identity, right? But you want to learn how to communicate better, because not only do you need to be able to express yourself, but you also have to learn how she expresses herself. Do you understand that connection is created through communication? And I can tell you, your wife wants more connection with you. And so if that's going to happen, you're going to have to learn how to communicate better. Let me tell you a story about communication. I've been teaching in my marriage masterclass about communication, and what I'm about to describe to you, or the example I'm about to give, I call full communication. Right? So you got effective communication. I call this full communication, and you'll see why in a minute. So a couple of years ago, I started doing woodwork. Right before I met my wife, I was doing woodwork. So I get with my wife, and I'm still doing woodwork, and I'm selling things, whatever, and get to a point to where, man, I think I want to start another business. Right, so I'm going to start a woodworking business and sign making business, and so I ended up buying a Cricut machine. Right, it's a little machine that like does stuff. It cuts out stuff, right? Uh, Kind of like a arts and craft type thing, right? So I bought a Cricut machine, and in the process of me buying the Cricut machine, not in the process, but when I bought the Cricut machine, I was going to use that to run this side business. But I'm already a therapist, right? And so what I expected, without telling my wife, I expected her to like um come in and be the kind of wife that I think she should be, right? Oh, you want to start a business? Okay, let me see how to do that. Let me see how to make t-shirts. Let me research stuff, whatever, whatever. And she didn't do that. So one day we was having a conversation, and I expressed that to her. And the way that I expressed it was not kind. Right. I told her, I bought the Cricut machine, and I told you I wanted to start a business. You didn't even support me. Like you wouldn't even look stuff up. Now, mind you, I'm telling her this in the midst of a conversation. I can't remember if it was heated or not, but it got heated after that, because I'm accusing her of something that I expected that I never communicated to her. Okay. Now, that's the backstory. I'm giving you that because you're probably familiar with that. Communicating and not expecting things from your partner that you never communicated to them. Right. So here's how I would do it today. So, babe, so I'm disappointed, right? So I would come to her like this: babe, when I bought the Cricut machine, I thought that you would support me by finding out how it works, finding out what we can make, and doing different things like that. And when you didn't do that, I was disappointed. I understand that I had this expectation and I didn't communicate it to you. So I want to apologize for blaming you for something that you didn't even know anything about. But I just wanted you to know that even though I was disappointed that you didn't do that, it's not on, it wasn't on you. So um, I just wanted to let you know how I felt. Right now, not necessarily verbatim, but the point is you communicate in a more fuller way, right? So that's a lot more words, but it's a lot more clearer too, right? The goal when you're communicating is to get the message across, not necessarily be grammatically perfect, right? I believe you should speak grammatically correct, but there are some times when you got to get the message across and that doesn't work, right? Learn to speak in a way that your wife can understand what you feel and not have to be defensive and like putting your expectations on her when you never communicated them to her before, right? So you got to learn how to communicate. And um, let me say this too, because this is not in my notes, but I see this often. You can't have needs that you want your wife to meet, not communicate them, and then go meet somebody else or a friend or whatever, and you just a blabbermouth, and you telling them all your needs, and that's how y'all get caught up in situations and stuff, right? But my point is this: you, you don't have a communication issue because you talk. For some reason, you're not talking to her. I think that's going to go back to an identity issue. You want to address that, okay? Yeah. Um, so here's the fourth thing: learn to love. How many you may be saying, learn to love? Like, I'm already married. What do you mean learn to love? Um, most people who are in love relationships don't know how to love. Most people don't even understand what love really is, right? Here's what the Bible says: husbands, love your wives the way Christ loved the church. That's your instruction. You have to learn how to love your wife. Now, he just gave you an example. He's a way to do it the way Christ loved the church. But you got to mix that with your wife. How do you love your wife the way Christ loved the church? Because you got to love her uniquely and specially. So, one thing, you got to be sacrificial. Love is sacrificial, meaning it's not always about what I want, it's not always about my comfort and me feeling good. A lot of times, for the husband, it's sacrificing what I want for her benefit. And I'm glad I said that, for her benefit, not necessarily for her feel good. Right? I'll talk about that a little later. But the goal is you got to be sacrificial. I mean, you got to sacrifice sometimes. Sometimes you're not going to get your way. And when it comes to, for example, I'll make it real simple. Even in watching TV, this is just an example. It's a simple example for you to apply with the broad brush, everything else. So let's say we want to watch TV, but we can't decide on what we want to watch. The husband would sacrifice. See, you guys probably think, well, no, I'm the head, I'm the leader, I get to choose. It don't work like that. The husband is the head of the house, and he's the head of his wife, but that means really that he's the foundation. He's like the marriage sits on him, the family sits on him. So he's the one that gives up whatever he needs to give up so the wife and the family can be good. You feel me? Another thing, you got to love her in humility. Talking about the way Christ loved the church, the Bible says that he humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on the cross, right? How did he love us? He humbled himself, gave up his right of divinity. For who? For you, for his bride. You got to do that for your bride. You got to walk in humility. And then another way you need to love her, without conditions. What do I mean by that? Meaning, your love does not need to be transactional. Don't make it so love is not transactional. You know what that means? That means you go to Starbucks, I give them money, they give me coffee. That's a transaction. Love is not that way. Love is not you do for me, I do for you. Love is not you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Love is what you give sacrificially for the benefit of the other. Okay? And love is not about making her feel good. Love is about making sure she is good. I'm doing a study right now on love because so I was in the shower the other day, and I was thinking about love languages, I was thinking about God, and I was thinking about love and what I've been sharing lately, and God spoke something to me that it made me laugh hysterically. You want to know why? Because when he told me, I was like, Lord, ain't nobody gonna do that. I said, Lord, if I teach that, nobody's following me. Nobody's coming to see me But then I said, if you want me to say it, I'll say it. But trust me, in America, yeah, no, we have love so. Love is not what you think, and it's gonna not just ruffle some feathers, it's gonna shake some houses, and most folk gonna reject it. But that's okay. It ain't my word; it's from Him. So, um, can I give you a clue? Let me give you a little clue, just a little bit, because I'm not done with the study. There's some parts I'm not finished with, but let me just give you this part. Uh, uh, do you understand that nobody on the planet, I'll use myself, nobody on the planet loves me more than God? You feel me? Okay. Nobody loves me more than God. However, God does not speak my love language. Isn't that interesting? It's interesting to me because we are so big on love languages. Oh, what's your love language? We got to speak that. And what I'm coming at is love languages. It's prideful. Yeah. So God don't speak my love language. As a matter of fact, here's what God says. Greater love has no man than this, than to lay down his life for a friend. Dying ain't one of the love languages. So the love languages are about making me feel something. Dying don't make me feel nothing. Don't make you feel anything other than gratitude. Here's one more example, one more example. So one time a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. Here's what he said: Teacher, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And then he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Then the guy said, okay, so then who's my neighbor? When Jesus gave a parable of a story about love, it's the story we know as the Good Samaritan. Uh, no feelings in there nowhere. The picture that he painted of love was about sacrifice and necessity. He put the man in a hotel. He paid for the hotel, paid for all his injuries, right? It wasn't nothing about, let me do this so he can feel good. I know y'all don't like it. That's just, when I say that's just the tip of the iceberg. Y'all come back when I get it ready and I send you an email if you're on my list. Come back and we're going to talk about love. All right. Number 5, study your wife. Study your wife. All right. Too many of you treat your wife like you treat any woman, or like you've treated all women. Like, if 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 you treat your wife like every other woman, then you can't be mad when she treats you like every other man. You wouldn't like that, right? If I were you, I would put a question mark by every thought that I have in my head that says women are this way or that way. I ain't saying get rid of it, but I put a question mark by it to see if it fits my wife. Like, women love flowers. I don't know. Women want a man who's fun. Women love money. You may think these things are universal, but you got to get to know your wife. Why? Because in order to love your wife better, you have to know her better. The deeper the knowledge you have of her, the deeper your love can go. Okay? And you have to pay attention to what makes her high and what brings her low. Right? And when you learn new things about her, ask about it. Be curious. Right? Study your wife. Study your wife so you'll know her ins and outs. Now, like I said, the thing I teach is full communication, right? But what if she's still growing and she's not there yet and she can't communicate to you effectively, what she needs? You may say, well, then that's her fault. Yeah, but you chose her though. It's your wife. So the more you pay attention and learn her, and then you ask questions, the more you can help her, the more she can help you love her. You feel me? Okay. So what's my time? Okay, we're good. We're actually not good, but we're gonna keep going. 6, learn to address the critic in your wife's head. All right, I'm gonna park on this one for a second. Learn to address the critic in your wife's head. Listen, all of us have critics in our head. All of us, right? And all of us are often manipulated by our critics. Like the critic determines when you're triggered. The critic is the one telling you, he don't love you, he don't care about you, she don't care about you, whatever. So when you learn how the critic operates, when you learn what triggers the critic, then you can effectively address the critic so you can either soothe the critic or just avoid, like disarm the critic altogether. Okay? I'll give you an example. Let's say your wife had so let's say your wife still has childhood wounds where she doesn't believe she's good enough, right? She's been working on it, but she's still. So it's difficult for her to receive criticism or feedback. Instead of just holding your peace, you can talk to her, but address the critic, right? So let's say you would say something like this: babe, I wanted to share with you that, when you made dinner last night, the rice was kind of salty, but I'm not saying that because you're not good enough, right? You are good enough and I love you, right? I'm just saying that the rice was a little salty. And so if you want me to fix it next time I can, or, however, but I was just letting you know, but this is not one of those things where I'm saying that you're not good enough or you messed up or anything like that, right? Now, you may think, well, that's too much communication. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I posted a little short version of that on TikTok a couple of days ago, and so I went and looked at the comments today, and they was going in. It was funny to me. So they was like, one guy said, he was like, "Man, that sounded like a lot of butt kissing to me," but he used a different word. And I said, "Well, you call it that. I call it loving my partner." Right. And so uh when you learn to address the critic in your wife's head, you're going to soothe her when the critic wants to rile up, and when the critic wants to be defensive. You can avoid all of that, but you got to be skilled at it. Like you got to have care. I tell husbands, when you're handling your wife, you need Mickey Mouse gloves. Mickey got them big fluffy hands. That's what you need when you're handling your wife, right? Now, ideally, it would be great if we married healthy and emotionally whole adults, but most of us don't, right? Most of us, that's not who we married. Neither me nor my wife married emotionally mature adults. We had to become mature in the marriage, and dare I say, still becoming, right? Now, here's what you can do with your wife. You can keep fussing at them. You can keep fussing at her for how she is, and understand the way that she is. It ain't because of you. Like, she showed up that way. It, nobody no, She was not raised to be your wife. That's So you can keep fussing at her for how she is, complaining, criticizing, or you can accept the person that you chose because you chose them, right? Accept the person you chose, learn their triggers, and it's not your responsibility to heal their triggers. It's their responsibility, but you still can learn them so that, like, what's wrong with avoiding triggers when you can? Sometimes you can't. But if you know it's a landmine, why can't you just avoid it? Why you just got to step on it? What benefit does that give for anybody? So accept the person you chose, learn their triggers, um, and then be patient, right? Take it to God and just allow him to fix it. Or just stay where you are. But I'm just telling you, punishing your partner, punishing your wife for something that they are not in control of is unloving. Like, what if your wife had a stuttering problem? Would you punish her for that? I ain't talking to you no more because you stutter. You don't know how to talk. That's unloving. She ain't making herself stutter, right? In the same way, she's not making herself have these childhood issues. Yes, it's her job to heal it, but right now she's married to you. So what you gonna do? Just sit on the sideline until she get it together? Y'all gonna get divorced. Learn to love differently. Love is not about you; it's about the person that you're loving. Okay. The idea is to show them compassion and acceptance as a person so that they feel loved and accepted. This will encourage real change, genuine change, as opposed to oppressive change. Like you can fuss enough and a person change their behavior, but now it's things going on inside of them that you may not be aware of. And so the reason I came up with this idea of speaking to your wife's critic is because in our marriage, thank God this is over, but in our marriage, we had a season where uh I guess I was doing things that I didn't know that I was doing, and my wife wasn't telling me about it. It was just in her head. And she was misinterpreting a lot of my behavior. But again, I didn't know it. We were getting distant, but I didn't know why. Because she wasn't sharing. Because the critic in her head was telling her all kind of foolishness. And I had no idea. I didn't know how to talk to the critic. I knew she had issues because I know I got issues, right? But I didn't know that I could address the critic and alleviate a lot of our problems and help her open up more, help her share more, help her then address her own critic. I didn't know that. And so I came up with this after working with my wife, talking with my wife about it. First time I presented to my wife, she was like, wow. She's like, that's going to be amazing. And so I'm like, I'm putting that on the list, right? You want to be a better husband? I'm telling you, learn to listen to the critic in your wife's head. I'm sorry, not just listen, because forget I said listen. I don't want you to take that too far. Learn to address the critic in your wife's head. Okay? That's important. Here's number 7. What time? Okay. Here's number 7. I'm trying to go faster. Heal your unhealed relationship wounds. Like the things that are inside of you that you know about, heal that stuff. Don't just walk around and heal. You hurting you, your wife, your children, like codependence, people pleasing, anger, pornography, can't express your emotions, can't take criticism. All of those are issues that you probably got in childhood, or because a lot of you think, well, I don't have childhood issues. Okay, well, you got it from some relationship. Heal it. Wherever you got it from, work on it. Like, do the work. It'll benefit you. Number 8, learn. Oh, this is a good one. I hear this often. And as a matter of fact, when I was doing this, I had to stop and send my wife a text. Babe, do I ever do this? No. Great. Listen, learn to touch your wife without expecting sex. Husbands, trust me, that's from the Wives Club. Learn to touch your wife without expecting sex. It's really important to them. Now, if I was talking to the women, I would address a whole different set of mindset issues that I believe are connected to that, but this Manhood Monday. So I'm telling you, when you touch your wife, touch her in sensual ways, kiss her sensually. I know you're going to get turned on, but that don't mean you got to try to have sex with her. Let her know that you want to touch her when you're not getting a benefit. That's what love is, right? I'm trying to help you. I'm just telling you. Number 9, if you have, I don't know if y'all gonna like this one. If you have female friends before y'all got married, your wife needs to meet them. Yeah. Why did I put that on the list? Well, because like I said, I was thinking today and I was just going through a lot of stuff, and I come across a lot of people where the husband has female friends, but there's issues like she ain't never met them. One wife, she said, I know they talk all the time, but when he get home, they don't ever talk. And I feel like, and this was anyway. She said, I feel like he treat her better than he treat me. I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that. Listen, here's what we don't do in marriage: secret friends. Okay, we do not do secret friends. You're gonna hurt yourself. Don't do that. Men or women, like even fellas, you got homeboys. Like, don't keep friends a secret. That's just a foothold for the enemy. So if you got female friends that you want to keep, your wife. So all friends. Now this is the gospel according to Clifton. This is what I believe because I believe this is what works. If you're going to have friends, they need to be friends of the marriage. And what I mean by that, I don't mean that both of you need to be hanging out with them, friends all the time. What I'm saying is both of you need to have access to each other's friends, right? Both of you need to like they need to come to the house, especially if it's opposite sex, see how y'all interact. Because as you're interacting with your female friend, if your wife starts to feel some kind of way, I don't know about this, I don't like, you better listen to her. Y'all been friends 10, 15 years. Nothing's ever happened. But your wife picks up, I think she wants you. What? Don't ignore her. I ain't saying you got to give up your friends. I'm not saying, if your wife got an issue, then just give up your friends. I don't believe that's godly. I don't believe that's God's intent. But I also know that you cannot put somebody before your wife. And so you want to hear her concern. You want to address it. You don't want to just act like man, look, she tripping. Okay. You're going to pay for that. Okay. If your wife has a legitimate complaint about your friends, male or female, you need to deal with it. Y'all need to sit down and have a talk about it, address it, right? But you don't then just push your friends to the side. Well, I'll just talk to them when she's not around. Because here's what's going to happen. You can be on the up and up, but it don't look like it. And so what you do is you cause your wife to have thoughts and anxieties that it's unnecessary. She already got enough on her plate. Their minds never stop. My wife told me today, and I didn't even think about this. So we was talking about two of our nieces just had babies at the same time. And my wife was saying, as mothers, she was like, because one of the, they, when you got a new baby, you can't sleep. And so my wife was like, they need to recognize sleep is over forever. And then I was thinking in my head, I'm like, forever? But I didn't say anything. And then she said this that made me realize, oh, I, as a husband, I don't think like that. But she said, yeah, sleep is over forever. She said, because you're going to worry about them from now on. And I was like, oh, that's why this and that. And so just in that moment, so much became clear to me about my wife and our adult son. Like, okay, I get it. They're different. You got to understand, things are always on her mind. So as she's dealing with that stuff, everyday life, you don't want to. You want to take as much off her plate as you can. As a matter of fact, let me just go to number 10 because that's what number 10 is. Number 10 is this: if you have small children in the house, help your wife relieve her stress. That's your job. If y'all got small children, it's your job to help your wife um, clear her mind sometimes. Now, especially if she has a full-time job other than being your wife. If your wife has a full-time job other than being your wife, then you got to help her with the house stuff. You may not. That's woman stuff. First of all, who told you that? Well, I don't know where you learned that. That ain't in scripture. But regardless of where you learned it, you're gonna injure yourself in your marriage if you you put her on the plantation and then you expect her to come home and still work like a slave on your plantation. Doc, that ain't gonna work. I'm telling, that's not gonna work. Right? If you want her to manage the house by herself, then you need to put her in a position where that's all she got to do. Otherwise, you need to help her. Okay? All right. That's what I got. I did have a bonus. Well, let me see. Well, hold on. Let me get my notes because since I'm already out here, it ain't been 45 minutes. Let me see. Give y'all my bonus real quick. Here's the bonus. Uh make sure that you're married to your wife you chose and not the wife you thought you chose. In other words, you may have heard me say, make sure that you are married to your reality and not your fantasy. Because when you on your wedding day, the person you said I do to, that I can almost guarantee you that was your fantasy. I can almost guarantee it. Because nobody marries the person who they think they marry. But hopefully, you've either done the work or you are doing the work to divorce your idea so you can stay married to your reality, because it is in your reality where the magic is. In your fantasy, that ain't even a real person. And you're holding her to this standard that she can't live up to. Nobody can, because you made it up. You made that up before you ever met her. What a wife should be, how she should love you, how she should treat you. You made all of that up. If I've always wanted a wife that'll cook Sunday meals, but you married somebody that hates cooking. What you gonna do? Complain every Sunday? That doesn't make sense. You need to get over that. Divorce that fantasy of that kind of wife, because that ain't what you chose, and learn to deal with your reality. Okay, so I'm either gonna have to have my mama cook on Sundays, or I'm gonna order out on Sundays, or I'm gonna cook on Sundays, but I'm not gonna bother my wife with it because that ain't her. And I chose her. You gotta get into what came in your box, right? Just because you want everything in your box, it ain't in there. Because guess what? It's some stuff that she wanted in a husband that she did not get in you. See, when I say stuff like that, I wish I had a church so I could say, y'all not praying with me, but ain't nobody, y'all. But that would be cool. But anyway, you am I crazy? You get what I'm saying? Okay, it's time to end because now I'm getting silly. So, hope that was helpful for you guys. Um, you know, uh, uh, do the work to become a better husband if you want a better marriage. Okay, in all seriousness, love your wife the way Christ loved the church. Right? Uh, if you are a husband, that's your number one job on the planet. It's your number one job on the planet. Do you understand that there's only one person on the entire planet, one person who needs a husband, and it ain't you? Husband, you don't need a husband. The only person who needs a husband is a wife. So, what that means is everything, 100% of what you do as a husband, because everything you do in your life is not husband, but everything that you do in the husband role, it ain't for you, it's for her. So, you trying to be the kind of husband you want to be, that doesn't make sense. You're not your husband. Be her husband. And you got to learn what she needs, right? I think I told you last week, in loving your wife, or I don't know if I was talking about loving your children. The way God loves us, he loves us based on what we need. He knew we needed a savior, so that's what he gave. You got to learn what your wife needs and give her that, not just what you want her to have. That's not going to work. Okay. I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to say one more thing that just came to my head. This ain't in my notes nowhere, but listen, all of you fellas who think that you can do marriage a little bit of God's way and then a little bit of your way, you are going to mess things up. How do I know? I've been there, and done that, and done that. I did that already. It doesn't work. You're going to do it God's way or your way, but you're not going to be able to mix the two. And the thing is, God's way has a 100% success rate. Does yours have a guaranteed success rate? It doesn't, because you don't know what you're doing. This is your first time being married to this person. You don't know what you're doing. So do it God's way, or you will suffer extra. Because I was going to say you're going to suffer, but marriage, you probably suffer anyway because of all the stuff we bring with us. But you're going to suffer. You're going to get extra suffering. Don't nobody want that? Okay. All right. Hope this was helpful for you guys. And we will continue next week. Oh, wait. Are we doing next week? I may be out next week because I don't know. We'll see. I have to go out of town, but we're going to find out. Okay. All right. Y'all take care.